Hey everyone, welcome back to Secret Sonics. This is episode 184 with Noam Levinberg. This is Noam's second episode on the podcast, and I really enjoyed this conversation. We talked about so many things, including lessons from building the audio department at a sync company, that you don't have to smash the dynamics for sync music. We get into Headroom and dynamics and how things are getting quieter. We talk about how he built his new plugin company, Safari Pedals, and what's under the hood of his new plugins. He talks about why he says no to mixing and only masters music now. We get into hybrid mastering approaches, when to say yes to everything and when not to, listening to more music and how that helps, moving studios. He talks about the importance of enjoying the journey from point A to point B, not to be afraid of reaching out to people, and so much more and everything in between. I really love this chat. I think you will too. So here's my chat with Noam Levinberg coming up right here on Secret Sonics. Hey everyone, if you're a music studio professional who wants to build deeper relationships with better clients, former guest of the show, Carl Bonner, has created some free educational resources for you. The link is in the show notes below, so go check it out. You're listening to Secret Sonics, a podcast exploring the creative side of music production. Join us weekly for honest conversations with real-world music producers and audio professionals. Hello, and welcome back to Secret Sonics. I'm your host, Ben Wallach. My guest today is Noam Levinberg. Noam is a mixing and mastering engineer, and now the owner of Safari Pedals, a brand new plugin company. He first appeared on the podcast back in November of 2020, so it's been a long time. I decided to invite him back on the show, and he's graciously agreed to do that. So with all that to say, welcome back to Secret Sonics, Noam.
Ben, thank you for having me. Super excited. I love your podcast, so let's get started.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Thanks so much. So yeah, You've made a lot of changes since the last time we spoke. It has been a while. Last time we chatted, you were working for Artlist.io, which is a sync music company, and you were, I think, mastering pretty much mostly for them. And so bring us up to date. Tell us a bit about that transition and where you're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was head of audio for Artlist, so I was mainly doing mastering, but also supervising a bunch of audio-related tasks for the company. Yeah, it was a really crazy and great ride at Artlist. It was almost 3 years where basically started the audio department and grew it to like a pretty big department of 10 people that did a bunch of like post-production, music for commercials, mixing, mastering, even recording some stuff. And I learned a lot from that process. Like I feel like it was kind of like my crash course in business development or something, where I kind of learned how to manage and work with budgets and work in a big company, relatively big. So it was super interesting and really great for me. But recently, I kind of decided that I wanted to start my own new path and take all the things that I've learned and kind of put them in one place, and started Safari Pedals, which was kind of a dream of mine for years, to start a plugin company and a stomp box company. So yeah.
What was the source of that dream? What made you feel like I got to make plugins?
It's a good question. I feel like, first of all, I just had a bunch of ideas in my head while I was mixing or recording over the years that I felt like I wish I had those tools. And I also felt like other people would enjoy them. And I think the idea behind, in general, like the whole thing with Safari Pedals is not taking it so seriously as other companies. So like a lot of plugin brands, or in general, like audio companies, go for like a really sophisticated and serious vibe, like proper universal audio, which are great. I love them, but it's just so like proper and legit. I just wanted something that's a little bit more fun and crazy and creative, just as a user more than anything else, So kind of wanted to make that dream come true.
Right. We already have our like kind of flagship plugins or whatever that, have that sounds, are super official or whatever. And then we could use some extra kind of fun, do a trick kind of thing to, plugins to add to that repertoire, to the list, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like for me, pedals were always that thing, like actual hardware pedals. Like I used to have, or I still have, like a huge collection of pedals, and it just feels so creative to use them. Even, just because the way they're structured in a simple way, like they usually don't have a gazillion different knobs. They usually have like one, two, three knobs or more, but like they're simple designs. And also the way they look is always like really fun and creative, and you just want to play around with them. And I felt like I wanted to do that with plugins and pro audio in general. And there are some like really cool plugins. I'm not saying that there aren't, but I just wanted to add my own flavor to it.
Amazing. So before we jump deeper into the plugin development and that kind of stuff,
Sure.
which I definitely want to ask you about, just looking back on your journey in sync, I saw you posted a YouTube video of the things I learned from mastering 4,000 songs for sync. What would be some of the things that you learned about audio specifically in terms of like the sync world that you could share with the audience?
Good question. First of all, I think I mentioned it in the YouTube you were talking about. I feel like people are still trying to make everything super loud and in your face, where the reality is, I think everybody's kind of fed up with that. And there's all the like technology wise in terms of like digital to analog converters and like all the different streamers, da 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 da. You can just make things softer. You can make things sound more dynamic and less loud these days. And I feel like people don't really accept that fact. They still smash everything and make everything super loud, which is fun. I mean, I do that too sometimes. But I feel like in sync specifically, you want to leave some headroom. You want to make it feel like there's space for voiceover or for other sound effects or even for another song on top of whatever you're doing. So I think that's the number one thing in terms of audio.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm also curious, like that's really interesting. That's good to know. The loudness wars persist no matter what we do.
Yeah, I feel like I had this conversation with a lot of people that said the opposite, where like people say like, oh, I want to make it loud, so my track is kind of
stand out.
Standing out, in consideration for sync. But I feel like people working in actual like sync companies or people who are branding or working on commercials and stuff, they know that they can turn the level up and down in editing. And when you think about it, like any song that's in a sync partnership deal or whatever, like going for a movie or a commercial or anything that's video related, is going to go into a video editing software where people can turn it up and down. So there's no real excuse to make it super loud. Like it's not something that really benefits your song.
Nice. I guess unless it needs to be loud to sound good, right? Which I guess there are times for that.
Yeah, there are times for that, but I would say that it's like in reality maybe like 10 or 12% of the songs, and like 80% of the submissions are super loud. So it doesn't really make sense.
So people back off. If your goal is sync, maybe think about backing off on the mastering chain.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing. When you were working on sync music, was Dolby Atmos something? I see you have like a Dolby Atmos sign behind you. Was that part of the equation? Because like when we spoke in 2020, like nobody was thinking about Dolby Atmos at all, and obviously it was already a format being used in films and stuff. But what was that like? I guess recently in the sync world,
it's something that I feel like isn't fully adapted yet. I think that the amount of possibilities that you can do with Dolby Atmos is something that we didn't really get to yet in terms of the industry. And I feel like there's a lot of catching up to do. But I'm sorry to be sounding like a broken record, but I feel like one of the major benefits of Dolby Atmos is something that people don't think about, which is Headroom. Going back to what I said earlier.
Yeah.
In a sense that like the standard in Dolby Atmos is -18, which is really soft and full of dynamics. And when you work in a multi-channel environment, you have much more space in terms of headroom, which makes things more exciting. Again, like I feel like headroom is something that's really
lost, I would say.
Yeah, it's really it is. I think that like all the old records that we love, like Beatles or Motown or anything like that, it has so much headroom and dynamics, and it's something that like we don't pay attention to these days almost at all. So
it's one of the big features of music, right? Because music is sound over time, and so when you manipulate how loud or soft something is over time, that could really play with your emotions in a really serious way. And I don't know, we've gotten, I don't know if it's a chicken or egg situation, right? Of like, where, music has sort of become background noise almost for a lot of people, I think, in the younger generation. And so it's like, it shouldn't be background noise. It should be something that you're like, I guess this is what theaters are good for, right? Or is like, drawing at your emotions over time, also like in a film medium or something, like.
Yeah, for sure.
Having your attention, when you used to listen to a record, you used to have attention for it, right? But now we listen to songs on Spotify and we're just like, we're not fully immersing ourselves in that experience,
Exactly. I feel like the only place where we actually, sit down and listen is when we go to a concert, which is kind of like going to the movies in terms of like comparison. But when you go see a concert, even if it's loud, it's still very dynamic. Think about that. Like, there's no like limiter and clipper on the master when you go see a concert. So I feel like that's something that we should implement more into like
recorded
any
music.
type of recorded music.
Yeah,
for sure.
I interviewed a guy named Mikko Gordon who recorded the Smile record, and he also mixes their live show, which is awesome. And I went to see it, and I met him, which was amazing. And he was saying how like there's a song on the Smile record that live he just slowly like nudges the master fader up, maybe like I don't know 10 dB or something over the course of a song, and it's just like that impact of doing that is just so massive to a live audience, and it's like And he was saying like I wish I could do that on a record also,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are certain examples of it working in major records, like Adele's songs like always have some sort of like dynamic and depth, and there's a bunch of other examples as well, but I feel like we're at a point now where we can actually do that on like pop records in general, or like even hip hop and whatever, any genre that you want, and just make things more exciting. Especially when, like I think about 90% of people listen to music through streaming, and most of the streaming that we listen to is normalized anyway. So
right.
Why not make it breathe a little bit?
I will say that I did some research, not like actual research, but like listening research with the Spotify normalization. And I really felt it deteriorated the quality of the music when it was on. I know I did this when I was interviewing a mastering engineer for my show, and he sent me like a title link instead of a Spotify. And I went on and I listened. And I was like, "Whoa, this sounds really good." And then I went on Spotify. I was like, "Why does this sound so bad?" And then I saw, oh, but it's normalized. I have the loudness normalization on. I turned it off, and it brought the level up. But it wasn't just a level thing. It was also like a qualitative difference. Like it sounded all that. I'm sure the title was a higher quality file, but but once the level was matched and the normalization was off, I felt like they were basically there in terms of like sonic quality.
Right.
But like with the normalization turned on, the Spotify sound was like degraded, which was interesting. So keep I don't know. That was my own personal like little mini experiment.
No. I actually have researched it quite a bit in my role at Artlist, and I feel like there's a lot of things that people don't realize that's happening in the background of all these different streamers and stuff. But it is getting better in general. Like if you generalize like 10 years back compared to now, it's getting better. And I think another interesting point is the fact that, TV and movies are generally standardized at around -24, which is really, really low. And then Spotify and Apple and everything and YouTube is around -14, but they're moving down. So like, I think that in a few years, everything's going to be just a generalized kind of lower number, probably minus 24, minus 22, something like that, which makes a lot of sense because
We can
then you
do
can
it.
move.
We can do it now.
Yeah, we can do it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like really, it used to be a technology thing because if you're, you know, really low in level and you go into a cheap DAC and you need to use, you know, headphone amp to power the DAC, it can create a lot of distortion and noise and blah, 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 blah. But I mean, man, the converters in an iPhone sound pretty good. Like I did that comparison as well. Like it's interesting. If you compare a 2022, 2023 iPhone sound quality to like a nice, you know, sound card, yes, there is a difference, but it's not huge as it used to be. So people can enjoy really nice music.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I believe it. But I have a question for you as like a mastering engineer, right?
Sure.
Like I've spoken to many mastering engineers and they tell me like, okay, I'm going to lose. This is how you lose clients is by making a file that's softer than you were delivered, or, you know, you have like people expect louder files. So how do you kind of deliver that kind of information to a client when, you know, they're like, if it's not louder, I'm not happy. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll always try and make the client happy. I mean, if I know that he wants it to be louder, then I'm going to make it louder. That's like the honest truth about it. But I also think that educating people and explaining to them certain things can lead to people being fine with it lower in level. And I also think that like clients these days are not same state of mind as they were 5 years ago or 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, I have clients literally telling me like, I do not care if it's louder than what I'm sending you or not, you know, just do whatever's right for the song. So I think everybody's realizing it. It just takes some time.
It's like a slow, gradual process.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. So it's be interesting to see over the next bunch of years, I guess, to see if the levels really do go down, because it's like they just haven't yet, right? It's
if you're measure like what I did for a short period of time was measure different latest releases coming out and comparing them and stuff, and it is going down. Like the average song is going down by like, I think there's even like a number. I think it's like a dB and a half per year or something like that.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. It is going down. And I actually think that another interesting point to mention here is that the most crazy radical sounds are usually the ones that are going down the first. So like dark metal and really heavy trap music and music that's like historically super loud are the ones that are becoming more dynamic first, because they're just so much more enjoyable. Like if I love trap, and it just has so much more depth and low end
Right.
on 808s and stuff. When you turn the level down, it's just funner to listen to.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I definitely think that we've squished things too far. we went too hard.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's applications where you want things a little bit louder, but then there's times where it's like, damn it, I'm just losing my low end now. Right. Like, so like,
yeah.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I mean, I think that also you shouldn't like target to a specific number. I'm not saying make everything minus something. I'm just saying,
right, do what's right for the music.
Yeah, do what's right for the music, and take it in consideration that you might not need to go 2 dB higher than what you did last time.
Right. Amazing. Awesome. So let's jump back towards the plugin development side of things, because I know that that's what you're really focused on right now. So Tell us a little bit about your plugin company. How did you start it? I guess give us like the basic background, I guess, for starters.
Yeah, so I do not have any background in developing, and I also do not have any background in engineering or anything like that. So I kind of knew from the start that I'll probably need to find some good freelancers to work with. And I was lucky to find a guy called David, who's amazing software developer that basically is a really amazing helping hand with everything I do in terms of plugins. In terms of hardware, I'm also using a freelancer to help me with the PCB designs and stuff. But in general, I kind of started with a vision. I actually started from the end. So like I tried to design whatever plugin or hardware I wanted, like actual, like GUI design, and then started handing it out to people and asking like, hey, can you help me build this? It took a few tries. Like the first plugin, which was the Gorilla Drive, I did with 3 different programmers that I wasn't happy with any of them, and almost gave up. I was almost at a point where I was like, okay, I'm throwing money here, and it's not really turning out to be something that I like. But I ended up finding David and David, and he just really helped me realize what I actually need, which was kind of a working structure that's different than the rest of the people that I worked with were suggesting. So what me and David came up with is sort of like a back office of sorts. So he sends me a back office of like all the EQs and compressors and distortions that I could ever imagine, and then just tells me like, pick and choose whatever you want and explain to me, what happens when you turn the knob up or what happens when you turn the knob down. And after spending hours on these libraries, you just find whatever you want. That's pretty much like how we work till this day on all the plugins. And that's actually how I came to the idea of the Time Machine, which is the second plugin that I released. The first one is Gorilla Drive, which is just a saturator that I really wanted and I felt was missing from the plugin world, where I love, Decapitator from Soundtoys, which is an amazing plugin, and a bunch of others. But I always felt like the low end was kind of getting crushed every time I used it. So I wanted to find like a way to make a really soft low end overdrive. And the hardware unit that I built did that like straight off the gate. So I felt like, okay, what I need to do is probably emulate that into a plugin. That was the first one, Gorilla Drive. It's really fun to use on like kick and bass and anything really.
Yeah.
The second one is Time Machine, and Time Machine idea came up with this whole back office of filters and stuff, because I kind of realized I can create these presets, and I started messing around with presets of like compressors that I really liked and filters that I really liked, and got to a point where I had like a 50s preset, which was based off of a Fairchild kind of sound, and 60s preset, which is based off a LA2 sound, and a 70s preset, which is based on an 1176 sound, and then an 80s preset, which is a DBX 160. And I felt like I got to a point where it sounded like the actual hardware that I had. So yeah, that was the second plugin that came out. It was just kind of, if we go back to what we were talking about earlier about stomp pedals, I wanted it to be like super simple, where you can just press a button and get that sort of sound and vibe immediately, kind of like a filter of sorts.
Yeah, like an Instagram filter.
In a way, yeah. And we're going to release a third plugin called Flamingo Verb, which is also a pretty, I think, in my opinion, a unique plugin, which I don't think exists. I mean, okay, so in my experience as a mixing engineer, I always love kind of mixing different reverbs. So what I'll do is I'll send one bus, like one send to like a short plate reverb, and then another to a longer kind of hall reverb maybe, or like a chamber.
Yeah, I do similar things a lot also.
Yeah, and blend between them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had this like idea of how would it sound if I would have like a knob that changes the decay time based on different rooms, if that makes sense. Which is what the Flamingo reverb is doing. So it has like a time knob, which looks pretty simple, but actually in the background there's 4 IRs that I really like. And when you turn it around, you're basically blending between different IRs. So you get like this combo of different rooms in one. So you get like a blend of a long hall or a church sound with a spring reverb, with a plate, and my studio actually, which is like a really small, tight room.
And so like you get more or less of all 4 of them as you twist the knob, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Is there like a delay in there as well, or it's all verb?
There's a pre-delay in there, which is another thing that I always kind of wished existed in reverbs. You can turn on and off any of the parameters, so you can turn off the reverb and just use the pre-delay as like a slap, which is pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and there's a drive and width knobs and high pass and low pass, so it's pretty diverse.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really out there. So it's just like things that are kind of like popping up in your mind as like good ideas and just like going for it full hog, so to speak.
Yeah, pretty much right now, at least. I mean, I'm kind of indecisive on like the next few plugins. Like I would say like 3 coming up that we're already working on. Like one is the Flamingo verb, then there's going to be a delay, which is going to be crazy. Like I have this insane idea that I'm not going to talk about, but you'll see.
Okay. If people find this episode in like 3 years from now, they'll be like, oh yeah, I've been using this for 2 years,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And then the third one is a limiter, which is also pretty unique. Going back to what we talked about earlier. So I'm going to do a limiter that's actually a dual limiter. So it uses different attack and release for low frequencies and high frequencies. Yeah, it's a pretty cool design. And after that, I'm not really sure. Like we'll see what people are asking for or what comes up from like user feedback and stuff. What do you think I should do?
I don't know. I mean, that sounds pretty dope. What should you do? I don't know. Well, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe some sort of EQ. I don't know. That's what that sounds like is maybe missing in the list.
Yeah, maybe
some sort of.
If any listener has any idea, please let me know. Like I really like when people, give me their thoughts about what's missing.
Sick. Hey everyone, if you've made it this far into the episode, then you're probably a fan of podcasts that help your personal development in the music industry. Former guest of the show and fellow podcaster Travis Ferentz hosts Progressions, a show about finding success in the music business. If you dig Secret Sonics, I have a feeling that you might enjoy his angle too. You can go check it out via the link in the show notes below. So go check it out. All right, back to the episode. So tell us a little bit about like, I'm curious what's going on under the hood in the Gorilla Drive. Like I know it's like a soft saturation on the lows. Like, can you explain maybe a little bit more details of like what kind of saturation is that? Like I don't know anything else that you could maybe give away because that thing sounds crazy on kick drums and especially in snares. I've gotten like crazy results using it. I'm already deep in. I'm sold on that one. So
thanks, man. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's just getting the kind of, like I said, getting the low end to fit right into the saturation, because it just took it took 100 hours of me just trying every single different filter and every single different saturator out there to figure out exactly what I wanted it to sound like. And the EQ there is pretty unique because it does this kind of parallel thing where you can again get like crazy low end but still have it's distorting, but it's not like crapping out. under the hood, there's actually a compressor in there too. Like people don't know that, but oops. If you push it a lot, it starts compressing. It's a very kind of subtle, almost limiter-like compressor. I just didn't want it to, again, crap out, because what you usually tend to do with a saturator plugin is you push the input in and you get to a point where it's clipping. And I was looking for a way for it not to clip and to sound really soft. So the compressor came in handy.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's really subtle. Like if you don't know that there's a compressor there, I'm not sure you can hear it. Maybe I'm wrong. Did you hear that there's a compressor in there?
No, but what I love about the plugin is that it kind of gives this low end bloom to the source, which I felt was like unique for that saturation kind of a thing. It really just brought out like a different kind of resonance out of like a kick drum, let's say, for example, of just like all of a sudden has more depth to it. It's longer. It's like a longer decay, the kick drum now.
Yeah.
It seems like it's also emphasizing something maybe in the 100 hertz area. I'm not sure about that.
It depends on the source, but it goes low. It goes all the way down to like, I think 10 hertz. If you like measure it in Plugin Doctor or something, it goes really low.
Sick. All right, so everyone's got to go check out that plugin, right? So there's a free trial. Amazing. So I guess your goal is to just make plugins that people will be happy with and just keep going until you run out of ideas or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, for the first time in a very long while, I felt like everything's new again when I started making these plugins. Like I've been mixing and mastering for a good probably 16 or 18 years now, and I love it. I mean, I love mastering, and I still want to do it every day. But at the same time, I was looking for like a new inspiration and a new kind of learning curve or something that I know little about it and want to, start reading and stuff. And boy, I've been learning some stuff in the last few months since starting this company. Not necessarily related to audio too, like just learning how to market and how to collect emails on the website and
right.
I mean, customers complaining about certain things and the way people, from different places in the world or different experiences are experiencing the products. And it's just so many things to think about. It's just been super interesting, and I feel like I'm learning again. So it's really cool.
Nice. Yeah. I feel like no matter how long, you do something you love and you're always learning stuff, there's sometimes you need to do different things to kind of promote that creativity. Like you were kind of saying, if all you do is mixing and mastering, then maybe you need to I don't know, read something or I guess start a new company or do something else to kind of my wife is actually doing Duolingo now because somebody told her if you feel a little stagnant in your job or whatever, then you could just do something else that lights a fire in a different part of your brain, and that will that can give you more satisfaction and maybe make you think more. So she's doing Duolingo in French.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I feel like it also makes me master differently or even listen to music in a different way, because I don't know, all these new experiences just make you kind of react to things differently. And with your wife's example, I feel like if you learn something new, even doing the same thing you've done in the past in terms of work will feel different.
Yeah.
In a way.
Because we become different people because we're an amalgamation of all the things that we've inputted into our system or whatever over time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So in terms of your business outside of Safari Pedals, you're back to freelance mastering and mixing. What does that look like for you?
I promised to myself I'm not going to mix anymore.
Oh, really?
So I'm over. Just mastering. Yeah.
Just mastering.
Yeah. I feel like mixing mixing is amazing. I used to love mixing, but I got to a point where I like, if to be completely honest, I wasn't really getting excited every single project I was working on. And I felt like it was, in a way, kind of morally wrong to keep on doing that and work with clients, which for them, you know, are expecting and should get someone who's super enthusiastic on working with them on a mixing project. I just felt like I don't have that fire in me anymore after doing so many mixes. But mastering, on the other hand, is still definitely something that I'm super pumped and excited about doing every morning. Like, you know that feeling like when you like load a session into your template and stuff, and you get this feeling like, oh, I can't wait to press play and just start playing around with it.
Do you still get that from
I
mastering?
still get that with mastering, yeah. So
wow, that's so interesting that you still get it from mastering but not mixing. I think mixing has like a sexier, vibe to it maybe than mastering. Yeah. Like mastering is like this more nerdy kind of like, you can't actually do as much even to the song. You can only do like little moves, right?
Yeah.
So tell me what you love so much about mastering.
Well, I feel like, okay, so in general, I feel like mixing really changed in the last 20 years. And it's actually like something that I feel like is more about production than it used to be. So I feel like everybody has the technology to do anything in terms of like, the plugins and, computer DSP, blah, 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 blah. And you can actually get to, really good results mixing if you're producing a track. And what I felt happened as a mixing engineer is like, people didn't want my opinion anymore as a mixing engineer. They just wanted me to do what they couldn't achieve by themselves, or maybe to kind of just polish it a little bit. Just take their idea and polish it a little bit. And I mean, that's fine if that's what the client wants. But at the same time, I feel like it should be something that is done during the production. And I also feel like in mixing, a lot of times what happens like these days is the production is based on a specific sound and like a specific kind of vibe that's there. They just don't describe it as mixing. They just call it like, production. And then when they get to the mixing phase, it's not only that they don't want to change it, they're right about it. Like it's already kind of baked into it. And
right.
Once you start separating it and kind of taking the glue off, it's not right for the song.
You lose the magic.
Exactly. So I feel like I'm much more relevant, and I kind of help people more with my mastering hat, because with my mastering hat, I'm not trying to change the mix. I'm not trying to change the, the glue of the song. I'm just trying to make it work in different environments and maybe like add a 5% polish to it. And it's just more fulfilling for me to be at the right place at the right time, as opposed to kind of battling in between, like, should I change this, or is it going to ruin, the image that was there before I started, da 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 da. So it's a different mindset. I'm in, I'm out. I work on it for like an hour, I'm done. It's not like a whole kind of thing, right, with
there's less emotional, like, it is not that it's not an emotional labor, but there's like that less, it's like less intense, it's like, mix, it's like you're in the, you're in the battle.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So mastering, you feel like you're able to kind of do your creative thing without it overwhelming you and without all like the question marks of like, am I doing what's really right for the song right now? It's kind of just like you go with your gut and then it's basically there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sick. So you don't do mixing anymore, only mastering.
Yes.
Nice. So before you were doing this for Sync, and now you're doing it all freelance.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've told people You've told the world, I'm back open for business, for public use.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's something like, I don't have the word for it, but like when you set a goal in your mind, a lot of times, in my experience at least, in my life, when I set a goal, things kind of happen automatically. So as soon as I finished Artlist, I didn't post about it or anything. I just got like a few calls from like friends and saying like, I know you work at Artlist, but there's a master that I really want you to do. And, you
manifested it.
Yeah, in a way. I don't know. It just happens.
Things just happen.
Yeah.
All right, you got a good luck charm or something.
I do. I feel like I am really lucky in this world. Like I feel like I'm a person that, I don't know, I got really lucky in a lot of different points in my life, including this one now. So I'm not complaining.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you're back in the hot seat doing the mastering and the plugins. Yeah. Is there anything besides for Safari plugins? Is there anything tool related that's exciting you right now?
I mean, this might sound off topic completely, but I recently purchased these ISO acoustic speaker stands. Like, they're not speaker stands. They're just like these little things that you put under the speakers.
Yeah.
And I have ATC 45s, which are pretty big, massive speakers.
Yeah.
And they have like I have a really nice monitor stand for them, but I recently bought these ISO acoustics and was blown away, like the amount of clarity that I get from them. And I used to kind of laugh about the idea of these sort of things changing the sound, because I thought like, oh, it's just a bunch of plastic. Like, what could it possibly change in my listening environment? But I recommend everybody buy them. I'm not endorsed
not
by
sponsored.
them, but
not
anyway,
sponsored.
No, I didn't even get a discount on them. But like, man,
wow, I never even thought about getting those. Right,
Yeah.
like I have these speaker stands with like sand inside them. I was like, whatever,
Yeah, I also have speaker stands with sand in them and like proper, in the proper height, But you should try it, man. It's revolutionary. I'm not kidding. Like, I feel like I'm like, the only comparison that I have is when I changed to mastering converters. Like, so when I bought this Crockwood mastering console that has D to A converters in it, and I remember being blown away by like how better it sounds. So the ISO acoustics kind of did that same thing. It feels like I'm hearing everything the same, just in higher quality, and like I can hear like a half dB change in EQ much more clearly with them. So try it out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I guess now I have to ask you a little bit about your mastering chain and how in the box versus out of the box you are hybrid. I'm assuming
hybrid.
Tell us a little bit about hybrid. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your kind of like mastering setup, your rig. What does that look like for you these days?
It's mostly in the box, I have to say. Like, I do have some really nice outboard, but I don't use it as much. So basically, I'm using the Crockwood to convert everything. It has like a D to A to D matrix where you can kind of set whatever you want to go to whatever you want. So you can basically build like mastering chains in it, which is really cool and fun, and control like the input and output gain of every single unit. And it's really flexible and fun. Yeah, it's amazing. So that's kind of like my main tool for mastering. And then I'm using, I have a Sontec EQ, which is a really, really nice mastering EQ. And
that's like the classic Sontec piece.
Yeah. It's one of the only things that I feel like is worth getting out of the box for. Like, it just has this certain kind of silkiness that I feel like you can't get in the box.
There's like a plug-in version of it, though, right? The Sontec.
Yeah, there's two. There's one from IK Multimedia, which I used a lot. And then there's like a new one from a new company. I forgot the name of the company, but they're both they both sound really good, but the hardware sounds better.
Amazing.
And then I have a manly, very new Mew, a manly new Mew, which is kind of like the classic very Mew, but it's just a little faster in its attack and release because it doesn't have that much amount of tubes as the original unit does. So it's quicker. I feel like it works better for like modern music, but I don't use it as much. Like I'll pull it out every like 4 or 5 projects, I would say.
So you're staying in the box for like 80% of your things, or you're only using the Sontic for 80% of your things?
No. I'm in the box for like a good 80%.
Wow.
Yeah. So the way I work is I just work in the box, and then if I feel like something's not right, if I feel like I'm not kind of being able to find something that works in the box, I'll go out of the box and try the Sontic. But most of the time, the in the box stuff, I mean, you can do crazy shit in the computer these days. It's just insane.
Yeah, that's epic. Yeah, you actually I think you did a video on YouTube also about explaining what you're usually putting on your mastering bus these days.
I did like my top 5 plugins for mastering. But yeah, that's a good idea, man. I should actually do that. I should do like my master chain.
Your master chain.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, but it changes. I'm assuming every song is not. It's not like super templated. I'm assuming you're changing some things up.
Yeah, it changes every song. What I basically have is like a bank of, I would say, like 10 compressors, 10 EQs, and I'll pull up a song and kind of play around with the different EQs and compressors to pick one. Sometimes I'll do one for the chorus and one for the verse. Like that happens a lot, which is something amazing like that I couldn't really do easily with analog. So another reason that I really like in the box stuff, because you can just automate everything and just do combination of stuff that's really complicated to do in the analog world.
Yeah. Do you find that like you avoid also doing the conversion, or it's more about just like the ease of function inside the box?
I actually like the conversion. So okay, this is gonna sound kind of dumb, but I actually convert everything. Like, so I
Really?
Yeah.
That is surprising.
The Crockwood converters just sound amazing. So I convert everything, and then the way it works is like I have a matrix system that I can pick, if I want to put something in the chain or not, but it's always going through the converter.
All right. And you don't have any issues with that?
I like it. I mean, I feel like especially...
What does it do? Like, what does the conversion do for you that you think it...
It's like a really tiny change, but it kind of warms up everything and it makes it sound a little bit more in depth in a way. Like there's like this depth that I can't really get if it's not being converted. And I feel like it's also something that in a way helps modern day mixes, because a lot of people, when you think about it, other than the preamp that they use to record, don't use any hardware at all. So it's just something that kind of helps everything get glued together. But it's like a tiny little change. It's not the end of the world. If I wouldn't use it, I just like it.
All right. Amazing. Awesome. Let's hop over to the sauce segment so people can kind of hear some things you've worked on.
All right.
You sent me a track called Closer by Don Mayo and Yecheskel Raz.
Yeah.
So let's listen to that for about 90 seconds and we'll chat about it.
Sure.
Sound cool?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Noam, this is so badass. It's like, it's really like, it's like messy.
Yeah.
It's got like a very messy vibe, but it's got, and like, it's like ambient, I don't know, it's like ambient rock or something. Like, I don't know what it is. It's super dope.
Yeah, it's just us three in the studio. I mean, I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like I mean, I'm mostly hearing like synth bass and like drums, and it's just like a wall of like grimy sound, you know?
Yeah. It's so it's one of the most fun projects I've ever done in my life. Yechezkel and me and Dan just have like a really good connection, all three of us. And what we do from time to time, I would say like every 6 months or so, is we just go in the studio with no plan and, you know, just press record and go crazy. So, you know, that project is one of those days about a year ago, I would say, or like a year and a half. And we didn't plan on releasing it on our list or anything like that, but I ended up like just playing it to friends who were in the room next to us, like that work at Artlist, and they thought it might be really good for sync. So we ended up putting it on Artlist, and I don't know, it's just like this one of those projects that I'm not sure even what I used to like record it or anything, but it was done, like the mix and master and everything was done while they were playing. So some of the sounds there are like these 2 delay units that I had running on sends that I was just messing around with while they were playing, and it's all live. Like we didn't edit any of it. Like it's just from start to end.
Don's an incredible drummer.
He's insane. I don't even like
the pocket is deep.
Yeah, man. I don't even call him a drummer. I don't think he's a drummer. He's like, I feel like much more than that. He's like, he expresses himself with drums, but he's not like a drummer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's like his own kind of beast.
Yeah. Actually, people don't know this about Dan, but he's like a really good keyboard player as well. Like he knows how to play piano really well too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's funny. I think he doesn't want people to know this. Like
it's like off brand for him.
Yeah. But I caught him playing jazz on the piano one day. Like I walked in and he was playing jazz. I'm like, Dan, I didn't know you play jazz. He's like, oh no, I don't.
It's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
No one was supposed to see me do that.
Don't. Yeah. Super talented. And then Yechezkel is just another insane beast of a musician. Like I think, if I'm not mistaken, that everything that you hear on this Closer track was done on an iPad. I don't even know how he does it. Like I have no clue.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a keyboardist, right? Yechezkel.
Yeah, he's like a
multi-instrumentalist.
He does all this like things with noise where you'll hear a bass sound and you'll be like, oh, the bass sound sounds sick, and then he'll be like, yeah, I recorded my young daughter like reading a story and I turned that into like a really low sub sound. So I don't know how he does all these like crazy sounds, but they're really unique. They're always like,
they're like 2 unique kind of like noise artists.
Yeah. And it's funny, we're actually doing a show on Tuesday in Tel Aviv in Atedel. I don't know when this podcast is going to be released, but we're doing the show in 2 days from now.
So after that. Yeah.
After that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not much after that, but after that, yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't planning on performing live or being on stage or anything. But I just got a text from Yechezkel saying, "Are you free on the night of the 23rd?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm free." And then next thing I know, I'm getting tagged on like, yeah, there's a there's a live show. So I don't even know.
You didn't even know what you signed up for.
Yeah, I don't even know what I'm gonna go on stage with. Like, I'm probably gonna come with a bunch of pedals and just hook everything up to pedals, but I might come with like an old radio or something. We'll see.
Mm.
I feel like they should, I'm overwhelmed.
They like do their thing and you kind of just like tweak things like on the spot kind of thing.
Yeah. But I feel like they're much more of musicians than I am. Like, they should be on stage. I wasn't intending on being on stage, but I guess it's an interesting experience for me as well. So we'll see.
Hey, maybe you have a future of being on stage. You never know where this whole world goes, right?
Probably not, man.
You didn't think you were going to start a plugin company, 4 years ago.
True. That's true. Yeah.
You never know. It's like we live our lives and we think we know where we're going, but it goes in totally weird and new directions, and we just can't really predict it. We just got to come along for the ride, I guess. I
agree with that. Yeah, for sure. You should always say yes to anything. That's been my motto. Even though I'm saying no to mixing, so you're
saying no to mixing. Sometimes you have to say no. There's a book I read called Essentialism.
Okay.
It talks about like everything has an opportunity cost. So if you say yes to something, that means you're saying no to something else. And so if you say no to something, it could also mean saying yes to something else. And actually, I kind of resonated when you were talking about like no longer mixing, so that you could do that. Because there's definitely projects that I work on where I'm like, why am I still doing these kinds of projects? I'm like, I don't love these projects.
Exactly.
They take up a lot of time. I'm not making enough money that it's necessarily worth it. Like maybe it's time to close the door on some things and dig harder into things that I do want to do. But it's also scary to close. It's also scary because a revenue stream is still a revenue stream. But
you
never know when the time is right.
I also have a theory about that. Like, I feel like I kind of changed my perspective in terms of revenue streams and stuff, because I feel like what I'm trying to focus on doing these days is to build things that are long lasting and things that are kind of like long-term investments. So these plugins, will probably create revenue even in, I don't know, like hopefully in 4 or 5 or 6 years from now, where when I, do a mixing gig or any other kind of freelance gig, it's just there for a moment. I mean, of course it helps your career to some degree, but I feel like doing that for such a long time didn't really result in any long-term financial stability.
Yeah. So you're investing yourself rather than taking on the gig economy or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like it's kind of like trying to get a loan to buy a house as opposed to just renting something out. In my mind, at least. I don't know. We'll see in a few years.
You're trying to buy the house now.
Yeah. Maybe in the next podcast, in 3 years from now, because the last one was 3 years ago.
Right, exactly.
We'll have a different conversation about it.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows where it's all going to go? But it's definitely worth, I think, always examining. Is this time to say yes to something or say no to something, or and I think, like you said, say yes to everything. I think there's definitely a time for that, and I think a lot of people too early on kind of close doors when they haven't done enough reps or something to like really like go at it, and then they maybe will crash and burn.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, so they have to say yes to more projects at the beginning until that kind of, they have what to say. And then there's that point where you can maybe start to like narrow yourself, but it's hard to always know when that is and if you're making the right move or not,
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
that's kind of like the balancing act.
I completely agree with what you just said. I mean, there's a certain point in your life where you're like, I feel like you should say yes to everything. I mean, students that I used to teach and stuff always used to ask me like, should I work on a project that I'm not 100% invested in, or not 100% like loving the song, or how will people think about me if I mix something that's not 100% what I feel is right for it. Da, 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 da. And my approach used to always be like, just make the client happy, man. Like, you're not supposed, it's not about you. It's about the song. It's about
Right.
the person that's making the song. You know, we're
Right.
service providers in a way.
Yes, 100%.
But you're right also with like, you know, I did that for such a long time that I feel like now I'm comfortable with saying, no, I want to do something else. I want to do something new, you know?
Awesome.
Yeah. Maybe the motto should be say yes until you can't anymore.
You can't say yes anymore. Say yes until you know you could say no.
Yeah.
Or
oh, that's good.
Yeah, like you said, it was good actually. Say yes until you can't say yes anymore.
Yeah.
If it will literally break you to say yes, then don't say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like your expression more. Amazing. Noam, I feel like we've touched on so many things. Let me before we wrap it up, we have to talk about. There's a couple of questions I ask everybody, and I probably asked you last time you were on the show.
Sure.
And maybe your answers have changed since then. So
let's see.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Let's talk about creative energies. You know, we all have days where we're super pumped to get in the studio, do the work we do, and then there's days where we're less motivated. Do you do anything to kind of stay motivated? Could be habits, routines, or just like, you know, little things that you might do?
I feel like I'm probably more pumped than most. I don't know. Like, I feel blessed to even have the opportunity to sit in front of speakers all day and work on something that I love so much, like music. So I hardly have days where I'm not pumped about that. I'm not pumped about other things, like, I don't know, like paying my mortgage or like, you know, dealing with tax issues, da-da-da. But yeah, working in the studio is a blessing for me, and I don't know, I feel pumped about it. Maybe the only thing that, you know, sometimes happens is my outside life kind of gets into my daily energy or like my thoughts when I'm working in the studio. And then something that helps me at least is just listening to more music. So I wouldn't necessarily start the day with like, I wouldn't necessarily start the day with working on the specific project I have on that day to work on. I'll start with just listening to 5 or 6 songs that I really like, just to get pumped.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Probably also sets your ears to kind of like hear the right things also. Probably has like a pragmatic benefit as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Listen to more music.
Listen to more music. I mean, that's also something that I always tell my students, or used to, is don't stop listening to music because you're in the studio. Because a lot of times people want to get to the studio so much that when they do get into the studio, they immediately start working on whatever they're working on, instead of just listening to some music before and after enduring the project to kind of get the references right, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to just keep doing reps on your speakers is also so important, you know, of like, just like knowing what your listening environment is about and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually you just moved studios, right? Like, I forgot to ask you about that. Yeah. How did that go for you?
I was petrified because I was in the previous studio for 10 years now. So
wow.
I was really scared about just losing that kind of reference feel and like that immediate response to music. Really, really, really scared. Like, honestly, like I couldn't sleep for a few days. And then and then I moved, and I was so relieved because, I don't know, it's probably like the combination of gear too. Like, I've been using the Crockwood for so long and the ATCs with the sub that I have and everything, that it just felt like, okay, it had a kind of different frame to it, but it's still the same feeling that I'm used to. So yeah, it wasn't a hard move at all. Like, it just felt like natural. And then
How long did it take you to be comfortable with like being confident with what was coming out of the speakers?
Probably like 2 or 3 days. I thought it's going to take me like a month or so, you know? Like,
yeah.
The only thing was that like because of the change in room and stuff, and I changed my table, and then I wanted the speakers to be a little bit higher, which is why I bought the ISO acoustic thing, and then I was blown away by that. So yeah, I actually feel like I'm more confident in the new space for some reason. Maybe it's just being excited again about the environment, but
The change is fun. It gives you like an extra level of excitement.
yeah, it opens up. It opens you up. It makes you feel alive. I don't know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you use any room correction or like
No.
any of these things? No.
I actually hate room correction. I feel like it's always something I would avoid. Like I would even avoid it if I have a shitty room. Like actually more so, because when you work in like a really good environment, you can hear what the room correction is doing. But when you're working in like an untreated room, you might make more mistakes with the room correction, I feel. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents. But yeah, people tend to like it and get good results with it. But I get confused by it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's like psychoacoustics that like we can hear through the room into the speakers more than people maybe give credit for. I know rooms lie to you, and like I believe in acoustics. Like this room is treated by Omer Karni, who I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And like you know, I've had him on the podcast also, which was interesting. And like, but I do think that there's something that you can hear a little bit through into the speakers. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I feel like it's also I don't want to sound cocky or anything, but it's also a matter of experience. Like when you've been twisting knobs for such a long time, you get a sense of what's right and wrong and what's wrong when you're listening to it. So like when I turn an EQ on or like, you know, move something in the chain, it reacts a certain way. And if you're in an untreated room or like listening to cheap speakers or something, there's like, you can still do all these things. You just need to be more aware to like what the reaction of whatever you're doing should like trigger in your brain and ear. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like if you're in a mastering environment and you're listening to like really good speakers, you should probably be able to hear every little like nuance and detail of like half a dB here, half a dB there. And if you're like with, I don't know, like Yamaha HS5s in an untreated room, you should just be more careful with the decision making that you're doing, because you're probably not hearing everything properly.
Right. I interviewed a mastering engineer named Scott Hull who's done some amazing work, including the Steely Dan record that won the Grammy, Two Against Nature, and he was telling me
he's a legend.
He's a legend. Yeah, he was telling me, like, I don't remember last time I've used more than like 2 dB on any EQ gear of mine. Like it's like a rookie move to do too much, and especially in the mastering stage.
Yeah, for sure. It's also something that like takes time to realize that I'm not here to change everything. I'm just here to maybe try and improve it a little bit. And sometimes even not that, like sometimes just let it be. It's a different mindset.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm glad your new room is working out for you. That's awesome. I know when I moved rooms, it was before the pandemic, but I was so scared of it and it ended up being so good. And it's just like, yeah, sometimes you have to embrace that kind of like fear of just like, change is good, you know, even if it's different, you know?
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah. Change is good. Change is good.
Change is good. Let's just keep repeating it as our mantra.
Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. So Noam, all I have left is the last question of the show, which I ask everybody, and I definitely asked you last time. Yeah. And maybe your answer is different, or maybe it's not. But looking back on your journey, was there something that you would tell your earlier self, or maybe somebody who's getting started now, of, yo, Noam, keep at that. That's going to get you where you want to go. Or Noam, don't do that. That's the thing that's holding you back. What would be that like piece of advice?
I would say 2 things that we actually touched on earlier. First of all is don't be afraid to say yes to things that might not, be ideal to what you exactly think you want to do at that particular time. I think I was really blessed in that I started very early like in terms of age. I started working in the studio when I was like 14, 15. So I had no ego coming into it. Like I just wanted to learn and I was fine with doing anything. And these days, like I talk to a lot of people starting up and I feel like the approach is really different. Is like it's like how to get to here, like to the top without ever having to like climb up all the little steps that I had to do. And I feel like that's something that I would really tell myself starting up or anybody that's starting is like, don't be afraid to do every gig under the sun, like do live shows, do podcasts, do like editing, do whatever you can get your hands on to get the experience needed to, be a pro. And at the same time, I feel like also be confident in yourself. And I think like these days, something that really changed over the years and wasn't possible like 20 years back when I started is you can actually you can write anybody you want Instagram message or like a Facebook message or whatever. And I feel like people don't use that enough. Like up and coming mixing engineers should be messaging like Instagram people like, hey, I like your music. Can I mix your song? I'm willing to do it for this amount or I'm willing to do it for free. And just don't be afraid to be the first one to start a conversation because it can lead to amazing things. And I used to do that like in a frontal manner, like in the studio as a recording engineer. I used to always like tell the clients that I liked working with, like, hey, can I mix the song once we're done? Like I'll do it for free. And most of the connections that I have till this day, like 20 years moving forward, are the ones that I reached out and asked, like, hey, I really enjoyed working with you. Can we work again on another project? Or I would be really happy to mix this song for you, da-da-da. And I feel people really miss that opportunity a lot of times because they're like too shy or don't think it would lead to something good or have this like wrong perception of like, oh, I shouldn't approach people because people should approach me. And, I don't agree with that.
That doesn't work anyways.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will not come.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to foster relationships and tell people that hey, I'm open to work. I'm open for business.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I love the first thing you said about like that kind of journey. People like these days, I think it's because of social media, because you see people that are succeeding and you're like, that's what I want to do. And great. Like, how do I get there? Like as fast as possible. People forget that there's a massive hustle stage to get, and there's the 10,000 hours minimum, right? That you have to like get put into things to learn them properly and actually become a professional. And like people forget about the middle stage of like just hustling for years to just kind of figure out how to do all the things. Cause it's literally what you have to do. There's no shortcut in that sense to becoming like, you kind of have to just buckle up and prepare yourself to enjoy that journey of getting to where you want to go. Cause it's going to take a while.
Yeah, and it's also like the journey. Like when I look back, I don't know. I enjoyed every single like one of those shitty or like weird situations that I was in. I mean, in a way, like maybe what I'm trying to say is try and enjoy the journey. Try and enjoy the different things that you have to go through in order to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. Because it's like,
otherwise, like, why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I think I think people need to also buckle up for like I think it takes 10 years approximately to become an audio professional.
Yeah,
give or take.
Probably right.
And like, so you're gonna have to like eat a lot of shit for a long time until you get to that, to the point of like, I don't want to do this anymore, so I'm gonna, like. You have to make sure that you're at that, like we talked about earlier, at that stage already. And so like, yeah, there's that big part that nobody, in movies, it just looks like a, few, it's like those 30-second montages, right? But like in real life, it's 10 years. So you got to enjoy it.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah. Amazing. That's great. That's great advice. Awesome. So no, this is so fun. So everyone has to check out Safari pedals. They're dope. I've already checked out the 2 that are out, and they both sound really awesome. And I've been using the Gorilla Drive, especially has entered my kind of like toolkit that I'm like going to, especially on drums, like kicks and snares, especially, but also for like random things as well.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and I'm gonna dig deeper into the Time Machine now after having heard a little bit more about what's under the hood. So I'm excited about that, and excited to see all the things that you're making. It's really awesome. And,
thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate you having me on the podcast, and just this conversation was really fun.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I learned something from everyone, and I learned a lot today. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Same here, fun. Man. I really enjoyed it.
So till next time, I guess the next episode in 3 years.
we should actually
3 years or less.
We should actually do the next episode in like 2.5, 3 years. And kudos to you on your your journey. And I think I was probably one of the earlier people on the podcast, right?
I looked it up. You were episode 70, and now this is going to be like episode 184, I think.
Amazing.
So it's been a while since a lot has happened in the interim.
Yeah, there were like a lot of really cool interviews that I listened to, and it's just really fun to see how you evolved too, and how you kind of were really consistent in terms of keeping this thing alive. So keep doing it.
Almost to a fault.
You should. Yeah.
When my daughter was born 10 months ago, and she basically like forced me to stop doing it weekly because I just could not do it anymore with like the amount of sleep we've had over the past 10 months. Like I just had to scale back to bi-monthly, and like, she left me no choice. And it's actually been good because it's like, you know what, bi-monthly is actually solid. And like I'm still getting so much out of it, but it's not as overwhelming. So we'll see if that changes again in the future. But it's been hard to maintain, but it's been really worthwhile because I've met some amazing people, and it's been like super. Actually, now that I have you on the air, you actually gave me a boost of confidence after our episode. He was like, this is a great podcast. There's no reason why you shouldn't be having like some of the heavy hitters. Like, you should reach out to them.
Yeah.
I think not long after that was when I interviewed Vance Powell, who was assisted by our mutual friend Matt Boudreau from Working Class Audio.
Yeah.
So thanks for that boost of confidence.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's exactly what we were talking about a few minutes ago.
Yes, it's exactly. Right. People are not so distant, even in our industry, which is just like a super small industry. And like people think like CLA is God. Like, how do you, I mean, I don't know about him, but people on that level are very approachable.
Yeah. I think like you always should kind of put yourself in other people's shoes in general. I think that's a really good tip. And I think when you think about other people and putting yourself in their shoes, why wouldn't you want to join a podcast if somebody's inviting you to, speak your mind and be part of something,
Yeah. So most people do want to, and
yeah,
that's interesting. Not everyone, and there are some people I was surprised about that said no, and there are people that are not on, usually on the upper level, so to speak.
Right.
But most people are chill. Got to just keep reaching out, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of the episodes I really enjoyed were there was one with Sam Pura.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
He's amazing, and he also has like a plugin company called Purified Audio.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you guys in touch? Because I can put you guys in touch.
Yeah, we're in touch here and there. Like we speak on Instagram, and he's an awesome guy. Really funny.
Yeah, his VU compressor is amazing. Also,
I really like his plugins. Like I have most of them, and they're awesome.
Yeah, he's doing a great job as well. Yeah. It's interesting to see all the people that are making plugins. Also, Jesse Ray Ernster is making plugins. I think they're using the same developer actually.
Really?
Who?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's Keeve Audio. If you've seen Keeve Audio,
is it Keeve Audio? I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's this. I'm pretty sure it's the guy from a bunch of their stuff is on Plugin Alliance now. Also,
That's interesting because I really like Kiev Audio too. Like I think that their tape face is really cool. It's it's one
I
of
saw
the,
it was for sale recently. I
yeah.
didn't buy it.
You should try it out. I mean, I have a Ampex really classic 440 tape machine, and it's the tape face is the only plugin that I feel like is kind of the same vibe, like has this kind of analog feel.
All right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Try it out.
So I think we could probably make the connections happen.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do that off the air.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Dude, Noam, this is so fun. Great chatting with you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the stuff you're doing.
Thank you, Ben. Same here.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Secret Sonics. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you've been digging the show, it would be awesome if you could share this episode or your favorite episode with a friend or two, and or leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher of choice. That's it for now. Have a great week. Take care and dig in. See you soon. Bye-bye.